Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going over the all-new Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro finished in Solar Octane. Before we get into this video though, a huge shout out and thank you to the Brent Brown Toyota here in Orem, Utah for giving me some time with this truck. I'm going to include a link to their inventory in the description down below so you can check out what they have currently. If you have any questions or need any help, just ask for Easton. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. So under the hood, we have a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 that goes through a 6-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 18 around town, and then 22 on the highway, with power outputs being 278 horsepower and then 265 pound-feet of torque. Now before we go over the front end, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the hood, we've got that cool venting there in the center, and then notice the TRD Pro decal as well at the top. And this Solar Octane is so beautiful. The camera isn't really capturing the color very well. It's this orange with this beautiful like metallic gold flake. And then coming down below, we've got the Heritage Toyota logo there front and center. Notice there's a camera above the logo and then a sensor below the logo. We've got the cool TRD Pro style headlights. They're LEDs that do like a cool dance when you unlock it with the turn signal light in amber. And then you do have those rigid fog lights down below. We also have a TRD skid plate that you can kind of like prominently see here at the bottom. We have tow hooks. And if you're wondering, this has about 9.5 inches of ground clearance. And when you put it all together, I think this is the best looking TRD Pro of all time. Like, this orange is perfect for the truck. Now coming on the side here, our tire and wheel setup is 265/70/16 in the front and over in the rear as well. And you can see we've got the TRD style of wheels here with the TRD Pro. Makes sense because it's a TRD Pro. But the thing that I love about this tire and wheel setup is we have so much sidewall, and we've got the Kevlar style tires. And so what that means is that, well, you have a nice cushy ride off-road, but you can also take impacts from rocks, and you're not really gonna have to worry about getting a puncture. Now, starting in the 2022 model year, the Tacoma was lifted by about an inch roughly compared to the previous versions, and that carries over into the 2023 model year, which is obviously what we're looking at today. On top of that, we still have the TRD Tune suspension and Fox shocks with the TRD Pro, which is really what makes this truck. I love the big chunky fender flares here. Notice we've got the splash guards, and then you can see the blacked out Tacoma badge there. And then look like the mirror, that really shows you like the color. It's pretty cool. And then you've got TRD Pro stamped into the bedside. And then here's a look at the rear shock, and then you guys can see with the leaf springs, yes, the Tacoma still does utilize leaf springs. So here's our key fob for the TRD Pro. You guys can see we've got our unlock function, our lock function, Toyota logo there on the back. The remote start function is pretty easy to use. You just press the lock function a few times and then you hold it down and then it'll do the remote start, and ooh. So actually popping into the bed area, first off, notice the tailgate is dampened. We have 990 pounds of payload capacity. We also have a composite bed. So notice we got the LED bed lights here. And then we have an outlet just down below. And then you've got the covering as well. So it's like super protected here in the back, but yeah, tons of practicality. And then lifting this up, it does have a little bit of weight to it. Notice TRD Pro yet again. We've got the Tacoma's famous tail lights here, and then you've got the Tacoma logo stamped into the tailgate with a 4x4 badge. Parking sensors here on the back end. If you're wondering, towing capacity is about 6,400 pounds with this truck. Don't worry, I didn't forget about you. You got the TRD exhaust, which sounds so cool. And let's actually roll a clip with that. And then when you finish everything up with the exterior, it's such a cool looking truck. This has got to be one of the best looking midsize trucks of all time, especially in orange. Now taking a look at the door panel, you guys can see really nice padding here all along the side, and look at the storage down below. That is definitely solid. Now this did just get dropped off by the transport truck, so we still have all the coverings on it, but you guys can see these seats. This texturing is meant to make it so it's easier to clean mud and debris and everything off. And you guys can see like the stitching. We actually have some red stitching up above, which is really cool. And yes, you still get the behind the seat storage here with it, which is also another neat feature. And for those of you wondering, yes, Legroom is solid, and yeah, it's pretty solid back here. I also got some cup holders. And then taking a look at the front door panel, has the same padding as the rear. We've got all of our window controls. Notice the front two are automatic. You've got your mirror adjustments as well. The mirrors do have blind spot monitoring here with the TRD Pro. And then we've got TRD Pro here on the headrest, and then look at like the center portion of the seat, and then look at the red stitching, just such a cool design. And then we've got all of our power adjustments here on the side. So this is for our stability control, this is for the camera system, and then that is just to turn on the outlets, and then you guys can see steering wheel is manually adjustable. Now taking a look at the steering wheel, you guys can see nice leather trim here at the top and at the bottom that is perforated here on the sides and get a slightly better grip. We've got some controls here for the center stack. You've got your volume, voice command controls, phone controls as well. This does come with adaptive cruise control as well as lane keep assist. And then we have our turn signal light stock, windshield wiper stock. Now with the gauge cluster, it is mostly analog, but we do have a screen there in the center which lets you scroll through different bits of info here on the Tacoma. Pretty standard stuff. Most modern vehicles have something like this. Love how it has a compass too. Definitely cool. Yes, I know. We always need fuel in Ben Hardy videos. It's just how it works. Now in reverse, we've got a backup camera with trajectory lines that turn with the steering wheel, and then you have that bird's eye view as well, because again, this does have a 360 camera system. And speaking of that, I'll actually press that camera view button, and notice we'll pop on with the front camera. You got the side cameras as well. And that leads us to the infotainment system. So we have a shortcut bar here on the sides, is what I'll call it. It's just like a bunch of shortcut buttons. And overall response time with it is solid. And then with the screen, it's also pretty solid. Now this obviously is not Toyota's newest infotainment system, but I still feel like it's a pretty solid unit overall. Now down below, you can see we've got controls for the heated seats. We also have dual zone climate controls as well. And then right next to that, you can see we've got a drive line select. We'll kind of zoom in on that. You've got 2-wheel high, 4-wheel high, and then 4-wheel low with the Tacoma TRD Pro. And then down below, you guys can see we've got this for like the blind spot monitoring, your ECT power button. You've got your parking sensors, and then this is for the power sliding rear window. Pretty nifty. And then we do have some charging ports right next to that. We've got a wireless phone charging pad down below, some cup holders right in front of that, and then we have our shifter for that 6-speed automatic transmission. It does have a manual shift function. It says TRD on it, and it's got some cool like red coloration. And then notice we've got some cup holder action, and then you can see with the center console, some nice padding on top. And decent storage space. Also, there are some USBs inside. So in normal Toyota fashion, you definitely have that utilitarian appearance with the dash, and then like with the material use on the dash and all that. And then when it comes to storage space, it's pretty solid with the glove box. So first thing up top, we've got our controls here for the sunroof. Kind of hard to see with the camera and the lighting, but we got a sunroof. And then we also have our button for the rear locking differential. Now the next thing we have is the crawl control and the multi-terrain select. So basically you press this button for the multi-terrain select, and then you can go through the different off-road drive modes, and then you press this button for the crawl control, and then you go through the different speeds that this has. I used both functions off-road with a 2022 Tacoma TRD Pro, which again is the same truck as this, just different model year. And both functions are great. The multi-terrain select is great for people that aren't super experienced with off-roading, so then it'll set up the truck for those specific off-roading setups. And then also same thing with the crawl control, right? If you don't like really trust yourself, it's basically like off-road cruise control. And then here is the window sticker for this 2023 Tacoma. You guys can see almost everything is standard equipment, and I love how they put the TRD equipment up front and center now, because you know, obviously the TRD Pro stuff is the most important in today's world. But there's your base MSRP, $49,390. This does have a few options added to it. And then you guys can see after all options and destination, $52,312 is the total MSRP. And well, let's sum things up with this truck. Well, I guess the best way to sum things up with this truck is by taking it back to its parking space and talking about some things. So first off, if you do want to see some like off-roading with a Tacoma TRD Pro, just type in Ben Hardy Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro off-road, and the video that I did with the green Tacoma will definitely pop up. Like I said, the 22 is identical to the 23 mechanically and everything, so all of that will still carry over to this truck. But what I can say, living with one of these for a week, with again a 22 that was green instead of orange, is that I really like the truck overall. There are some slight downsides though. The one thing is going to be the transmission. So this 6-speed automatic is good, but it's not as good as Toyota's 5-speed that they have in the 4Runner, for example. I feel like the 5-speed is just a much better transmission, especially on the highway. Like this gear hunts a little bit, whereas the 5-speed in the 4Runner definitely doesn't gear hunt whatsoever. So that's definitely a big positive. And then off-roading, this thing does amazingly well. Those Fox shocks, that is like what this is all about. Like absorption is amazing. This is basically like a budget Raptor in a sense. Now, I wouldn't go and jump a Tacoma, that's for sure, but you can do some higher speed off-roading, and it can handle like 99% of stuff that most people will take this on. I literally took this up like a gigantic mountain, and it was like a 30-degree incline. Again, go watch the video so you can see, barely crested the top. It was definitely a little bit of a struggle, but regardless, I made it up. And so yeah, this thing's an absolute machine. I think it's really cool for a mid-sized truck. But what I would say is I really am excited to see what Toyota does with the Tacoma for the redesign, especially when it comes to the powertrain, because I feel like that's the only thing holding this truck back. Everything else, like the styling, the shocks, the suspension, just how this drives, it's all super solid. It's just the powertrain does hold it back a little bit. Let me know what you guys think. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Brent Brown Toyota here in Orem, Utah for giving me some time with this Tacoma TRD Pro. Let me know what you think about the new Solar Octane. As for Easton, I'll see you.